Bagwell scatters poetry throughout the Queen City. From her teaching at Central Piedmont Community College to public art celebrating our state's literary legacy. The wall poems of Charlotte share the words of North Carolina poets with anyone who stops and looks.
Today, poetry seems to have been relegated to this tiny shelf at the bookstore, and it's something that affluent Caucasian people have access to, and most other folks don't, or not regular access, or not good access. It started out as an art form of the people, and now it belongs only to sort of a select few. So I want to see it return to the people. It belongs to all of us.
The students and faculty at Trinity Episcopal School encourage Amy's mission, and the next poetry mural will soon grace their retaining wall.
Here at Trinity, we often put a focus on, if you want to see the world change, one, be the change that you want to see in the world, but also pick up a pen and try to make a difference. I think poetry is the vehicle to explore everything.
What I like about poetry is you don't have to be so direct and kind of state your point. You can kind of express yourself while talking about it and poke at it and hint at it.
The existing wall poems hint at a rich history of people and places.
When I was in graduate school at Queen's University, what I was drawn to was to investigate how to get poetry to the people. I found out during that investigation about the wall poems in Leiden, Holland. 101 wall poems all around this small city outside of Amsterdam. And when I saw that, I fell out of my chair, and I thought, we need to do this in Charlotte.
Amy and her former student, Graham Carew, brought their new project to the Advertising and Graphic Design Department at Central Piedmont Community College.
Community people usually want to be proud of their neighbourhoods. And if you do art that's part of their community, and you give the people an opportunity to be involved in that art, they feel responsible for it.
One of the things I like about poetry is that it distills the big idea down to the fewest possible words. And which is the same thing that designers have to do, is take a complex idea and make it as simple as possible. If they only get one thing out of this in the 2.5 seconds they have to look at it, what do you want to get?
When we do one wall versus another wall, there's always a challenge to make each one of them its own.
And also working within the different neighborhoods and having, certain people are constantly walking around it, so they have to be able to relate to it.
You don't want to make it too literal. You want to make it, a bit abstract so people have their own, identification with it.
The students' first challenge was a mural for Dandelion Market, named for a marketplace in Ireland. A warm greeting from Irish-American poet A.R. Ammons seemed fitting. The chosen design literally brought Amy to tears.
When I turned my design around to show her, she started to cry. So I figured it was either a good thing and she liked it, or it was really horrible. And it turned out she liked it.
We've a lot of positive feedback since we put up the poem from people taking photographs in front of it, and we see them every morning. I see people smiling, reading it on their way to work. A.R. Ammons' nephew came in here. When he read about the poem being on the wall, he was very impressed by the whole thing. It's art, it's culture, it helps the community. Why wouldn't you do it? It's beautiful.
Amy's quest continued in Charlotte's historic First Ward with support from Levine Properties.
We met and we immediately had a connection, and I said, my gosh, we have quite a few properties that poems would look awesome on.
The first of these projects was the Treeler House, built in the 19th century by an English immigrant. The home featured a temporary wall poem in 2013.
So we picked a poem by John Pineda, whose father came here from the Philippines. And it was about some of what it's like to be the firstborn American son. Surrounding it were portraits of just people who came to volunteer to have their pictures made. My favorite bit was the portrait we put up just to the right of the poem was of a man named Alex Shaw. He's from England, and his little boy, who was his firstborn and his American son. I didn't know that necessarily looking at it, but it's there. And so when we do a wall poem, maybe what we can do is underscore something in the text, some layers that could be conveyed visually.
Poems now tell stories on Tryon Street as well, thanks to a project commissioned by Charlotte Center City Partners.
Charlotte Center City Partners' mission is the cultural, economic, and residential development of the urban core. We believe that we need texture in our downtown. We need something that makes people stop and think for a moment. And you know what? We have a lot of different places that we can make this happen, like the news rack that I'm standing next to. One side is all of the newspapers and print materials, and then this side is dedicated to art.
One of the responses we got to the news racks was really cool. Someone had been downtown and seen them. He said, this is the kind of thing that makes a city great. In general, the responses to both the murals and the news racks has been very, very positive. We just found out Sherwin-Williams is gonna donate paint. So Trinity's 70-foot mural, the paint will be donated for that, which is tremendous.
This community support energizes the design team as they tackle the unusual wall at Trinity.
It's on a wall where the highway is close to our school, and so you can see, everyone who drives on this highway will be able to see how we want to represent our school.
We focus a lot on literature and art, so if you bring the two together, it illustrates what Trinity is all about.
Mural artist Scott Nurkin embraces unique challenges. Known for his work in Chapel Hill, he's also left his mark on the Wall Poems project.
So the process of doing one of these murals is, it comes to me on a piece of paper, and then we transpose it onto a wall digitally. We'll manipulate it to figure out how the wording will look. From there, we'll measure the wall space. So if it's a 10 by 10 foot wall, say, then on the piece of paper, I'll do a 10 by 10 inch grid laid on top of the thing. So 1 inch equals 1 foot. It's a little more intensive because I use stencils. So I trace and cut out the lettering, and then I trace them out and paint them. It's fun, and I love doing it. Because also I get to meet people every day that are interested in what I'm doing, and they'll ask me questions about it. You'll get a homeless person all the way up to a really wealthy person.
I think that other schools should have wall poems because it builds an inclusive community and it brings people together from a different aspect that you would never really think possible.
There definitely is an opportunity for schools to partner with local organizations around art projects and other projects, because you actually can have residents who are experts in a particular area who can really help people learn about what that's like in the real world.
The act of teaching has absolutely reinforced my belief in why we do this. When I can show my students, look at this thing we did on this wall, it's one way of showing to them the poetry isn't dead, it's a living thing. And then the way that my students respond to it with interest and questions, and they ask if they can help, tells me that we're doing the right thing.
The spirit of hope and education surrounding the Trinity mural called for only one poem, an excerpt from The People, Yes, by Carl Sandburg, published at the height of the Great Depression.
I believe more than I can ever prove of the future of the human race and the importance of illusions, the value of great expectations. I would like to be in the same moment an earthworm, which I am, and a rider to the moon, which I am.
I think it says a lot about how humble we should be, and at the same time how much we should dream and how much we should want to do great things.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful choice for this location and for these children as they're growing up, and the people of Charlotte as they drive by and think about, all it takes to become an important part and a meaningful part of this human race.
Michael Drake's design process for the poem reveals surprising visual connections.
I saw a dandelion just kind of waving in the wind. So that's how the original idea came about. I showed the concept to Amy, and a few days later it just so happened that her son picked up a dandelion and did the same thing. I thought, well, Futura would be a great typeface to use. It wasn't released for commercial use until 1936, which was the same date that People Yes was published. I like it to be less about me and more about what we do as a team and, how we try to give something back.
It's absolutely a group effort. It will never just be me doing this. What I'm happy about is that we have a place for poetry. Charlotte is filled with these gorgeous walls, and they demonstrate just in their surfaces our history. People who've come and gone and painted over and worn away and bumped against, and to celebrate that by adding something to it, I think is really special.